Gearaholic fans out there, it's me, Gearaholic, and I'm here doing another review. And today's review is going to be over the Mora Classic #1. Here's the knife in the sheath. The sheath is just some sort of rigid, hard plastic sheath. Nothing too special, nothing crazy about it. There is a couple of things that I'd like to talk about that maybe I haven't seen in other videos. They're probably out there, but maybe I just haven't found them yet. But the belt loop on the back, you could squeeze a very small, thin belt through that, maybe like a webbing belt or something like that if you wanted to. And I understand that it's kind of an odd angle for a belt design. But the loop, this little loop up here, I actually found out that that is actually for buttons. And what I have here is I have a torn piece of shirt, don't ask why, don't ask where, that has buttons on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly what that's used for. And what you do is you insert the button, obviously, in the lower part of that triangular design, and you slide it up, and it literally pops into place perfectly with that top hole, and then it becomes like kind of a dangling, a dangling thing. I think a bigger button would probably do a lot better than the smaller ones, but I think the range of motion actually that you get with this button is kind of nice. So that's one of those aspects that I never really thought about until I was kind of doing a little bit of research. I'm not sure how many people knew that out there. There is the crust, the Mora crust that they have on all of their classic move on. So the actual blade itself is actually held into the sheath just by friction. You guys didn't know that. You kind of just push down and it holds in pretty well. You know, obviously I wouldn't rock it upside down and like a grab style or anything off of like any kind of webbing. But you know, it holds it in really well. The friction on it's enough that you can kind of just pop it loose and wheel it out. So here's the knife blade. It's really nice. Gonna flip it around too so you guys can see the logo. There's the logo, Mora of Sweden, Mora Kniven. Obviously this is a high carbon steel blade. I was going to talk a little bit about specs. So the specs, the overall length of the blade portion is going to be 3.9 inches or 98 millimeters. The total length is going to be 7.8 inches. That's 199 millimeters. And then the actual thickness of the blade is going to be it's going to be 0.08 inches thick or 2 millimeters, which is kind of nice. You know, it's a nice thick blade. You know, I don't know if you guys know. I can compare it against the Mora Companion, which is obviously its bigger brother. Obviously, the stainless steel is going to be a lot thicker, so kind of a good comparison there. But yeah, I mean, honestly, with a thinner blade like that, it gives you a better cutting purpose. So you don't have to really force it through material. It's so thin that it can really slide through it. The grinding on the actual blade itself is really nice. On the carbon steel blade, it's been well done and then well high polished. I was going to talk to you guys real quick about the handle. So obviously the handle is it's birchwood handle, which, as we all know, birch is really hard wood. And it's actually really hard to work with hand tools. And I mean, you can do it. It's not impossible. It's just really hard. And apparently, you know, it's really available over there in Sweden, where Mora is obviously stationed or is from. And obviously, they've been producing this specific blade for over 100 years. You know, probably longer. 1891, I believe, is when they first started production. So that's a long time. You know, they obviously have gotten it right, and they've been around for that long, and people love them that much that they're still here. It's a good thing. But the handle itself obviously is birch wood. Birch is really hard, really good knife handle, and then it's covered in what they call red ochre. It's kind of spelled a little funny, but that's apparently how you pronounce it. Red ochre has been used for thousands of years, and it's basically just a paint that they put over it to protect it from moisture or absorbing any kind of moisture. And red ochre, I believe, is some sort of it's a iron oxide component. I think it's like derived from clay or something, and they take it, and it used to be used as paint and all kinds of other things. And I don't know, there's a lot of history out there about it, but that's basically one of the most primary things. I believe it's baked on to a low enough temperature that it's just baked right onto the actual handle itself, even though it's made out of wood. they have to have some sort of hardening or drying process, and I'm sure that's somewhere in there. But the actual blade itself, obviously, is high carbon content steel. It's really nice. It picks up almost every single fingerprint that I put on it. So high carbon steel. Basically, let's talk about this real quick. So Mora has they do a really good job of producing high carbon content blades. I'm not sure exactly what their process is on how they make their carbon steel, but I know for a fact that it's cold rolled, which means that they've obviously heated it, and then they let it cool, and then they put it through a roller, which is part of, I think, the hardening process of how they get it so rigid. And then obviously they stamp these knives out like a cookie cutter. They literally stamp these knives out by, the hundreds, I'm sure. And then the grinding process, obviously it goes through the grinding process, which is really nice. And then some sort of hardening process, and then a final buffing and sharpening process. The buff on it is very nice. You can actually see it being very well reflected. I don't know if I can blind you guys real quick. Oh, it's razor sharp too, by the way. I don't know if I even told you guys that. Man. But I think it's a really cool knife, and honestly, I'm really proud to have it in my possession. I think it's going to be real fun to have, and I think that it's one of those things that everybody should go and pick up one. For as cheap as they are and as fun as they can be, I think it's a really good blade to have around. It's a good backup blade if you want to take out like a primary blade. Like if I made my Mora Companion primary blade, this would be definitely coming along. So one of those things to think about. And I was going to kind of a little bit of comparison against the 511 here. 511 is a little bit longer, but same carbon steel blade, everything. I think this blade is a little bit thicker, like wider, than the actual 510, but I don't know. Anyways, but yeah, that's all I have to say. It's Gearaholic, and I've been doing a review over the Mora of Sweden Classic #1. And I really appreciate you guys watching my videos. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, give me a call. Sorry, don't give me a call. Send me a message at the bottom of the screen, and I'll get back to you. All right. Thanks, guys. You guys have a good one.